Hi guys, welcome back in Docker series. In the last video, we have seen what is Docker, why we need a Docker, then Docker workflow, then what is the Docker Hub, the comparison between the virtual machine and containers, and we seen how to install the Docker on Mac OS. In this tutorial, we're going to see how the Docker workflow is and how it's to be executed. Let me walk through the steps. Okay, so I have added the steps in this Docker workflow. If you're able to see here, I have added step number 1 here. Here we are going to write simple Spring Boot application. Then in that Spring Boot application, we're going to add Dockerfile. In step number 3, we're going to create the image of that Spring Boot application. Then step number 4, we are going to create account on Docker Hub. As I already explained, Docker Hub is a repository where you can able to share your image, where you can easily push and pull your image. So in step number 5, we're going to push that image on Docker Hub. And in step number 6, we're going to pull image from our Docker Hub. Let's start from step number 1, where we need to create Spring Boot application. Let's open the IntelliJ, create a new project. Click on the next. Let's give the group ID com.docker.demo. Give the artifact ID Docker Spring Boot demo. Give the same name as the project to demo project for Spring Boot and Docker. Give the package name com.practice.dmode. Dmode stands for debug mode in my case. Click on next. Let's add the dependency. Okay, we don't need anything, so we just need a Spring Web. So let's add a Spring Web and click on next and click on finish. Okay, so our project is open here. Okay, the Spring Boot application has been created. Let's annotate the same application as a controller. And we're going to add endpoint here. So let's add public string message. This will return simply one string. Hi Docker and Spring Boot. Let's annotate with the get mapping and define the endpoint. Hi. Okay. So we have created a simple Spring Boot application. We have annotated the same Spring Boot class as a REST controller here, and we have defined the one endpoint here. Let's create the jar first. We don't have a target folder yet, so let's go and create the target folder. So let's install it. Meanwhile, it's running at the end. Yeah, the build is success. If you check here, so let's open the target folder here. The jar is created here. Okay, it's something weird name. So let's give the proper name here. Let's open pom.xml. So give the final application name as the same as the project name. Just install it again. So it will create the exact name that we want. Okay. So the docker hyphen spring hyphen boot hyphen demo dot jar has been created here. Now let's run our Spring Boot application so we can test our endpoints. Okay, so application has been started. If you check here, you can able to see the Tomcat has been started on port 8080. So let's run our endpoint localhost 8080 and hi. Okay, so if you check here, we got our message hi Docker and Spring Boot. So our first step is completed. Here we have created the Spring Boot application. Now step number second, we need to create Dockerfile in this application. So let me walk through the steps again. If you check here, the step number one, where we have created the Spring Boot application, and in step number two, we are going to write Dockerfile in the Spring Boot application. So let's over to the step number second. So let's add Dockerfile in Spring Boot application. So the D is capital here, everything other is small. Okay, so we have created the Dockerfile here. So let's add certain steps that we need to perform from Java 11. Okay, so it's saying that what the Java version that we need to use, then expose. Okay, so we are going to expose the port inside a container. So we need to define that port inside the Docker file, then add target. So we need to copy this jar on container. So we need to give the specific path. Okay, so let me give the path of this jar. So we are going to copy this jar from local to the Spring container. So let's have the same name on Spring container 2. Okay, and the last is the entry point. So it's an array as we are using the Java. So we need to define Java. Then we are going to copy jar. So we need to give the jar and which jar we are going to copy, that name that we need to give. So it's the same name that we have to give. Okay, dot jar. The things are pretty simple in Dockerfile. We need to give the which Java version that you want to use. So it will going to copy Java 11 from your Docker Hub. Then on which port that you want to expose this application, then which jar you want to copy from your local to container, and then what will the entry points. So it's an array and it's the format is quite fixed. Step number two is completed here. We have write Docker file inside our application. Let's move to the step number three, where we need to create the image of this application. We need to create image of this project. So let's move to the terminal. Okay, so you can go the terminal via Spotlight also. So just click here and just search for terminal. So same terminal that you can found here too. Before creating the image, let's understand how many images that we have inside our Docker application. So let's Docker images. Okay, it's saying that cannot connect to the Docker daemon at Unix. Docker daemon is running. Okay, so our Docker application is now started. So let me start the Docker application. So, so Docker is starting. It's not started yet. Yeah, the Docker desktop is running. So let's identify how many images that we have. Okay, so if you check here, the 4 days ago, I created the same image, the Dockers hyphen spring hyphen boot dot jar. Okay, so let's create the image of this application. So before creating the image of this application, you're supposed to be on the same project. So we are in the project docker-spring-boot-demo. It is the same project that we have and the same project that we need to create the image. So let's give the command docker build the target -t and the name of the image. So let's say docker spring boot demo. Okay, so this is the name of the image that we want to create. As we are running this application, it will going to identify the docker file. Okay, and from that docker file it will going to execute the steps, the whatever the steps that we have written here. These are the 4 steps. So if I will run this, then you can able to see here step will be going to be performed. Okay, so one parameter is miss. It's asking for the directory. Let's create in the same directory on the root itself. Yeah, it's doing some operation from docker 11 java. Okay, so it's saying that it's not able to find the java 11. So let's open jdk. Okay, so it started downloading the java 11. If you check here, so if you check here, it's taking the time to take downloading the java 11. As we are doing the first time for java 11, so it's taking the time. Okay, so the steps has been completed. So let's check in our docker images. Okay, so if you check here 26 seconds ago, that docker spring hyphen boot hyphen demo, the image is created inside our container. Okay, but it's a local container, guys. We need to push this image on our docker hub. It's a centralized repository, or you can say it's a centralized registry where we need to push this image. So our third step is completed. Here we have created the image of our application. So in step number 4, we need to create account on Docker Hub. So let's get started. So either you can go from here, you can able to see here it's a Docker Hub. So let's click on that. So it's opening the Docker Hub at .com. So either you can go from here also, or either you can simply search for hub.docker.com. So it's the same thing that you can found here too. Okay, so let's do the sign up. Let's give the Docker ID first. Let me give the Docker ID. Okay, so this is the Docker ID. Then I have given my email ID and the password. Then I have check this checkbox. It's saying that send me the occasional products updates and announcements. And I'm not a robot. Okay, verify and sign up. Okay, so the sign up is completed. So we have created our account inside the Docker Hub. Once your sign up is completed, you will get the verification mail. So the email address that you provided, you will get the mail on that. So let's click on verify email address. Yeah, and you will get the message. And once the verification is completed, you will get another mail that is congratulations, your account has been verified. Okay, so let's do the sign in. So Docker ID. So once you sign in, you will get the message, welcome in the Docker Hub. So here are some tabs, explore, repository, organization, and all these things. And below that, you need to create the repository. Let's click on create repository. So let's give the repository name, practice D mode. Okay, so let's create. So let's go in a repositories. So you can able to see here, I have created one repository, practice.dmode. Now here we have completed our fourth step. We have created the account on Docker Hub, and here we have created our repository. Now the next step that we need to push the image of our Spring Boot application on this Docker Hub. Now we need to push the image on Docker Hub. So first log into the Docker Hub from here. So Docker login is the command. So let's run this. Okay, so it's asking the username, Docker ID that we have given. Okay, so the login is succeed. So let's identify the image that we have created. So let's run the command docker images. Okay, so this is the image, the docker hyphen spring hyphen boot hyphen demo. So this is created by us. So let's push this image on Docker Hub. So prior to that, we need to tag this image to the repository that we have created, and the repository that we have created is the practice dmode. Okay, let's run this, and now let's push this image. Docker push. Let's push this repository itself. Yeah, it's doing the operation. If you check here, it's pushing. It's taking some time. Yeah, it's completed. So let's open our repository. Just refresh it. If you check here, this image is updated few seconds ago. So let's open it. Okay. Our fifth operation that push the image on Docker Hub is completed. So let me walk through the flow again. So the step number 5, push the image on Docker Hub, is completed. Now let's move the step number 6 to pull the image from Docker Hub to the local, and let's run it. Now we're going to pull the image from the Docker Hub, but before going to the pull the image from Docker Hub, let's identify the image that we have created on the Docker Hub. Give the command. Okay, so this is the local image, the Docker hyphen spring hyphen boot hyphen demo that we created on local, and this image that we have tagged with the we need to base slash practice demo, and this is the image that we have pushed on Docker Hub. Okay. So let's pull this image from the Docker Hub. Prior to that, let's delete these images so we'll get the difference that we have downloaded from its Docker Hub. Now let's delete these images. So if you check here, the images have the same image ID. So let's delete that. Docker rmi hyphen f and the image ID. Okay. So it's been deleted from here. So in step number 6, we're going to pull this image from the Docker Hub. So let's do that. Okay, so let's first check the images. So we have deleted the images from our local container here. So it's a docker hyphen spring hyphen boot hyphen demo that we created. Okay, so prior to that, okay, so let's close our application which is running on our local mode 2. Let me stop the application and let me run the application. So that was localhost. Okay, so you can see here our application has been stopped and you are not going to see any kind of response from here. So let's run our application from Docker Hub itself. So give the command docker run, then port. Okay, 8080 is the port of our local application. Okay, and again 8080, it's a container port where our application is running. Okay, so this is called as a port mapping. We're going to discuss in the next video what is the port mapping exactly is, and let's give the path of repository. So demode. Okay, so it will first try to identify the image from our local container. If it is not found in the local container, it will try to fetch from Docker Hub. So let's run it. Okay, so it's the first line itself saying that unable to find images locally, and it's starting download it. Yeah, and if you check here, the Spring Boot application itself is running from our Docker Hub. Okay, and Tomcat is started on port 8080. So let's run the application. Yeah, so if you check here, it's showing the message hi Docker and Spring Boot. So this application is right now running from our Docker Hub. So guys, that's it for this video. So we have completed all the steps that we need to execute for Docker workflow. So it's pretty simple. So you just take a walkthrough on this and just go through the video so you can get the details. See you in the next video. Thank you.